According to an article from Maryville University, Women of Color in STEM, it states, according to the National Science Board, women make up 47% of the current workforce. Of this percentage, only 28 are currently in the science and engineering workforce. Of that percentage, only 5% of it is comprised of women of color. The need for women of color in the STEM workforce has always been there. It's just now getting the recognition that it deserves and needs. The organization Black Girls Code has been helping contribute to gaining the recognition that women of color need to succeed in the STEM workforce. As someone who has done research on Black Girls Code, I'm qualified to speak on this topic. This is an important topic because young women of color need guidance and they need role models that they can look up to that show them how to succeed in STEM programs and STEM careers. Today we will discuss the problems that women of color face in the STEM workplace and workforce, and how to contribute to organizations such as Black Girls Code to help these young women of color in STEM programs. The problem that women of color are having is not being introduced to STEM programs and STEM careers at a young age. And when they are being introduced to it, they aren't being encouraged to continue a path if they feel like they can succeed in that career path. Young girls of color are excelling in STEM subjects, but because of lack of encouragement, they are deciding not to continue an education in the STEM fields. In the Maryville article, Scientific American discovered that 45% of women in STEM leave their job because of feeling underpaid and underrepresented. So women of color are going through years of school to gain a career in STEM programs and STEM career fields, and they're deciding to leave their jobs because they aren't feeling appreciated and they aren't feel that they're being looked at as an equal person. Now that we have talked about the problems that women of color face in STEM, we will discuss some solutions. While we may not be able to help every woman of color succeed in a path of STEM careers or STEM programs, we can attend and support the annual U.S. Women of Color STEM Conference. The annual U.S. Women of Color STEM Conference is a conference where they basically award different women of color in STEM career paths to show recognition and to just give them like a pat on the back that they deserve, to let them know that we see you, you're doing a good job. If you can't attend any of these conferences, you can volunteer or donate to organizations like Black Girls Code. Now, I want you to take a moment and think about a doctor that you've had that was a woman of color. For most people, this image doesn't exist. Most people haven't come across a woman of color as their doctor. Now, I want you to think about, and just like imagine that you've had plenty of doctors that were women of color. You've come across so many women of color that were doctors or nurses, and you've interacted with them and seen how much of a good job that they do in these workplaces. Now, I want you to think about how that one doctor that you came across isn't just a representation of herself. She's a representation of every woman of color in the workplace, of how hard they've worked and how much they've done to be where they're at. Now, I want you to think about how that one doctor that you've come across can mean the whole world to a 6-year-old girl sitting in a science class, learning about engineering and science stuff. And that doctor is going to encourage her and be her role model to be able to succeed in a STEM program or a STEM career if she chooses to. Today, we have talked about the problems that women of color face in STEM, which are being discouraged at a young age or not being encouraged at a young age in STEM fields. And it's also being discriminated in a workplace or workforce or program of STEM. And some ways that anyone can contribute to helping, such as volunteering, donating, or just helping in any type of way they can to organizations and to women of color in STEM. If you can't donate money to organizations like Black Girls Code, then at least donate your time and support to help these young women.